For many retirees, inflation feels like something that happens gradually in the background. Prices rise a little here, costs increase a little there. A grocery bill that once seemed manageable becomes noticeably higher. Insurance premiums rise, utility bills increase. Everyday expenses slowly begin to consume a larger share of a retirement budget. Because these changes often occur gradually, inflation is sometimes called the silent threat to retirement. Unlike a sudden market decline or an unexpected financial emergency, inflation works slowly, yet over time, its impact can be significant. For retirees living on fixed or predictable sources of income, inflation presents a unique challenge. The dollars received today may not purchase the same goods and services 5, 10, or 20 years from now. This concept is known as purchasing power. Purchasing power refers to what your money can actually buy. When prices rise faster than income, purchasing power declines. In practical terms, this means retirees may find themselves spending more money to maintain the same standard of living. Many Americans experienced this reality in recent years as the prices of groceries, housing, healthcare, transportation, and everyday necessities increased. Even periods of moderate inflation can have a meaningful effect over the course of a long retirement. A retiree who spends 20 or 30 years in retirement may experience multiple economic cycles, changing prices, and shifts in the cost of living. This is one reason inflation deserves a place alongside Social Security, Medicare, healthcare costs, and retirement income when discussing long-term retirement security. Understanding inflation does not require becoming an economist. It simply requires recognizing that retirement planning is not only about how much money you have today, but also about what that money may be able to purchase in the future. In this briefing, we will explore how inflation affects everyday retirement expenses, why healthcare costs deserve special attention, and what retirees can do to better prepare for rising costs over time. Because when it comes to retirement, understanding the impact of inflation is an important step toward protecting long-term financial security. To understand why inflation matters in retirement, it helps to look at the everyday expenses that most retirees encounter. One of the most visible examples is food. Even modest increases in grocery prices can have a meaningful impact over time. A few extra dollars spent during each shopping trip may not seem significant at first, but over months and years, those increases can accumulate. Housing costs also deserve attention. Whether retirees own a home or rent, housing expenses often continue to rise. Property taxes, homeowners insurance, maintenance costs, utilities, and rent payments can all be affected by inflation. Transportation is another area where retirees may feel the effects of rising prices. Fuel costs, vehicle maintenance, insurance premiums, and public transportation expenses can fluctuate significantly over time. Many retirees also discover that inflation affects services as much as products. Home repairs, lawn care, household assistance, travel expenses, and professional services often become more expensive as labor costs increase throughout the economy. The challenge is not necessarily a single large price increase. Rather, it is the cumulative effect of many smaller increases occurring simultaneously across multiple categories of spending. For retirees living on fixed or predictable income sources, these gradual increases can place pressure on household budgets. This does not mean retirees should become alarmed. However, it does highlight the importance of periodically reviewing spending patterns and understanding where inflation may have the greatest impact. One advantage retirees possess is experience. Many have already lived through periods of economic uncertainty, changing interest rates, and fluctuating prices. That experience can provide valuable perspective when evaluating current economic conditions. The goal is not to predict every future price increase. The goal is to understand how inflation affects daily life so that retirement plans can be adjusted when necessary. Small adjustments made over time are often easier than responding to larger financial pressures later. Understanding these everyday effects is one of the first steps toward maintaining financial stability throughout retirement. While inflation affects many areas of retirement spending, healthcare deserves special attention. For many retirees, healthcare represents one of the largest and most unpredictable expenses they will face. Medical costs have historically increased faster than many other categories of consumer spending. Advances in medical technology, new treatments, prescription medications, and longer life expectancies have improved quality of life for millions of people. However, these advances often come with higher costs. Even retirees who have Medicare coverage may still encounter healthcare expenses that can be affected by inflation. Premiums, deductibles, copayments, prescription drug costs, dental care, vision services, hearing aids, and other out-of-pocket expenses can all change over time. Long-term care is another area that deserves consideration. Many Americans underestimate the potential cost of long-term care services. Whether care is provided at home, through assisted living arrangements, or in skilled nursing facilities, costs can be substantial and may increase over time. Healthcare inflation can be particularly challenging because medical needs often increase with age. Unlike discretionary spending categories, healthcare expenses are frequently necessary rather than optional. This is one reason many financial planners encourage retirees to include healthcare expenses as a separate category when evaluating long-term retirement readiness. The objective is not to predict every future medical expense. Rather, it is to recognize that healthcare costs may not increase at the same pace as other household expenses. Understanding this distinction can help retirees develop more realistic expectations regarding future spending needs. Healthcare planning and retirement planning are closely connected. The better retirees understand potential healthcare costs, the better prepared they may be to adapt to future economic conditions. Inflation may influence many aspects of retirement, but healthcare remains one of the areas where preparation and awareness can have the greatest long-term impact. As we conclude this briefing, it is worth remembering that inflation is not a new challenge. Retirees today are not the first generation to experience rising prices, changing economic conditions, or uncertainty about the future. Inflation has been a part of the economic landscape for decades, and it will likely remain an important consideration for retirement planning in the years ahead. The good news is that understanding inflation is often more important than attempting to predict it. No one can forecast future prices with complete accuracy. However, retirees can take practical steps to remain prepared. Review household expenses regularly. Pay attention to areas where costs appear to be rising more quickly than expected. Monitor healthcare expenses separately from other spending categories. And remember that retirement plans should evolve as circumstances change. Flexibility can be one of the most valuable financial tools available during retirement. Small adjustments made over time are often easier than major adjustments made under pressure. It is also important to maintain perspective. Headlines frequently focus on short-term economic developments, market volatility, or temporary price fluctuations. While these events may be important, retirement planning is fundamentally a long-term exercise. Successful retirees often focus less on reacting to every headline and more on maintaining a consistent understanding of their financial situation. Knowledge, awareness, and preparation can help reduce uncertainty. Inflation may influence purchasing power, healthcare costs, and household budgets, but it does not have to dictate the quality of retirement. The objective is not to eliminate every risk. The objective is to understand the forces that may affect retirement and make informed decisions as conditions evolve. At the Retirement Briefing, our mission is to help you understand the economic forces shaping retirement in America so that you can make more informed decisions with confidence. Because when it comes to retirement planning, perspective is often one of the most valuable assets of all. Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Retirement Briefing.